Thank you, everyone. I should be presenting with my co-presenter, researcher George Grigolashvili, but he's not here today. I'm sorry for that. So our topic is the influence of Lexis and Praxis on modern Georgian political discourse. And I'm from Caucasus University. My name already, Khatuna. So research objectives we had were analyze language behaviors like code switching, code mixing in Georgian political discourse, understand how lexical items are turned into propaganda tools on social media. And the research questions or statements are the following: functional classification of language behaviors, structural classification of language behaviors, and how lexical items are established as propaganda. Methodology we used are the following. We actually went through 5,000 Facebook and Instagram posts from the period of March 2023 to July 2024. And the most frequent topics evolve around EU integration process of Georgia. So Georgia is like in the Caucasus region, the country. And also, the topics were on demonstrations protesting the law on foreign agents and the election and post election periods. And the methods also, qualitative, in terms of qualitative methods, I've used critical discourse analysis for CLAF, and in terms of quantitative analysis, we used SPSS, Google Forms, and SPSS to analyze this survey responses, which are 110. Key findings. The language behaviors are the following. So out of this 5,000 posts, we found 1,105 cases, mostly exclamatory interrogative sentences of code switching, which means switching between languages. And these languages were from Georgian into English and from Georgian into Russian. And code mixing. Actually, difference between these two terms, as I'm working in this field, it's quite familiar for me, but if you find it unfamiliar, I can tell you the difference between code switching and code mixing is that code switching is on the sentence level, while code mixing is just one word within a sentence. And the key findings were also neologisms and metaphors we found in this post on social media networking websites. There's were 41 political terms like Bidinization. Bidinizatia, Bidina Ivanishvili is like a head of Georgian Dream, the governing party of Georgia, the government. A self-declared government in our country, and also Rusetume, which is the word, declares someone who is pro-Russian. And as for metaphor, we found 5 main metaphors. There were Belarusization. You know what Belarusia is, and so people were actually assimilating themselves and the government to Belarusia in Georgia and Russia's slave. I think you got it. So we found this, and I want to show you what we found in terms of the structural classification of the language behaviors. These were code switching and code mixing, and we found that most of them were exclamatory sentences, and the least were negative sentences. I mean switches from Georgian into English and from Georgian into Russian, and within the same passage. That's also one of the most important features of code switching, code mixing behaviors. And as for structural classification of language behavior, so we got paragraph, phrase, noun, adjective, and verb. Phrase, noun, adjective, and verb are about code mixing. So, I told you that we've conducted a quantitative research, and here is the demographic data and education of the respondents. And these are the people, I mean, Facebook and Instagram users. And as you can see, we got female and male respondents. More of them are female, out of which, and also most of them were from 31 to 40 years old, as you can see in terms of age. And most of them were Georgians or Three of them were Armenians, and these are Armenians who live in Georgia. And higher education level received in Georgia, as you can see, we got master's degree, so we can actually conclude that they are quite highly educated, and also we got PhDs as well in our research demographic data. Okay, and type of living areas, I would say that most of them work in live in urban areas, as you can see, and no, not urban, like out of urban rural, we have urban, but most of them live in the capital city, Tbilisi. 75 out of 110 responses. And so our first question we asked them, so actually we grabbed some vocabulary items from this post. That's what we've done. Then we created Google Forms and asked these people what they have found in these posts on social media networking websites, how frequently used these vocabulary items were. So, and the question was the following: mark all phrases, words that are used in social and referring to the Georgian Dream Party and its supporters. And as you can see, most frequently used words and phrases were Kotsi, like short form of like Georgian Dream, Rusetume, like person who is pro-Russian, and the least frequently used words were bizinisti, mona is a slave in English, Kotskhrova, Rusi, Khrova is like a gang of people. And it's connected to Koti plus gang of people. So these are kind of neologisms used and coined words used to describe particular society of Georgian people. And the second question we asked was to tick all the phrases that were used in social networks referring to those citizens of Georgia who are not supporters of Georgian Dream. And they were called Nazi, Mishisti, Mikhail Saakashvili was like the former president of Georgia. So they want us to kind of stick to that person, people who are not supporters of the current political current government, let's say. So, and Natsbanda and Natsrova, these are frequently used words, and the least frequently used words are here. So, person who doesn't have a homeland, Usamshablo, this is how it is translated. Actually, these are Georgian words, but you can find in my article all the translations given and descriptions analyzed in the graph and the table. So frequency of using, these are the phrases which describe and indicate the current political situation in the country. And we get Russian Dream instead of Georgian Dream, Ivanishvili's regime. I told you Bidina Ivanishvili is the head of Georgian Dream, and so on and so forth. So you can see the statistics and the percentage. So while doing this, I also asked the respondents extra vocabulary for indicating extra vocabulary if they had in their minds, and they suggested shuashisti, someone who is in the middle, not for the current government and not for the former one. So this is someone that explained, and a Belarusization was one of the examples offered. So, and these are the trends out of this 5,000 posts. We got hashtag movements like no to Russian law, which unified pro-European sentiment. Russian language was used sarcastically mostly, while English signals pro-European identity. So, in terms of qualitative data, I've used Forklift 3D CDA model, and these are text which include text analysis, spoken or written or typed, in our case typed, discourse practices, and sociocultural practices, it includes, and it actually proves that language can be used as a form of social power and change. So in terms of this qualitative data, analyzing this data, we asked 3 questions. Why do we consider it to be a propaganda using this Lexis narrative? What are the features of this propaganda narrative, and why government needs the propaganda narrative? So, first is that the government and its affiliated institutions actively participate in the construction of social ideologies by strategically influencing the use or dissemination of specific lexical items within the society. And the next reason is that the government stance, along with its affiliated groups, is resistant to discussion. Any rational argument opposing their position is met with either verbal or, at times, physical aggression. In terms of the kind of peculiarities of this propaganda narrative, we can say that lexical items were simple and are simple, emotional, and repetitive, like collective West. So people who are against the government are called collective West. The word collective is kind of familiar to post-Soviet states and emotional as well, I would say. So, and these lexes are also created by political elites and social institutions. And the aim of this narrative, Lexis, is to persuade and polarize Georgian society. And why government needs this propaganda? This is a kind of rhetoric question. Why does society need to create enemy image? So probably because we need to survive. So we need essence of life. So it's kind of philosophical. And this image, without the government and without the power, legal power, cannot be resistant. Do you understand what I'm saying? Cannot be, no, not resistant, but persistent. So therefore, the problem with enemies created by society is that they cannot provide long-term persuasion to society. And that is why the government is the institution that can persuade and therefore actively uses it. Conclusion, I have a couple of points, and I hope I have time to express my conclusion parts. Code switching as a political strategy is used in political discourse to build, maintain, or challenge interpersonal and ideological boundaries. It serves both pragmatic and strategic purposes. And language and propaganda, in terms of language and propaganda, language functions as a powerful political weapon, and propaganda reinforces division between pro-European and pro-Russian groups in Georgia. And enlightenments must include reflection on its own regressions to remain effective. Intellectuals and citizens have a moral and existential duty to speak the truth and protect public discourse, let's say. And in terms of data overview collected, we got out of this 5,000 posts, only 1,275 social media posts were the ones where we found this code switching and code mixing behaviors. And out of this, I told you already this data. In terms of language attitudes and symbolism, English was used positively to express pro-European settlements and form ideological communities, while Russian was sarcastically to reinforce historical trauma and reject Russian influence. And the Georgian was a dominant language used for persuasion, opinion shaping, attacking opponents, and covering scandals. In terms of youth and political influence, Georgian youth as heavy social media users are key targets for political messaging. That's why they are used in social media networking websites. And politicians are increasingly active online to influence this demographic. So polarization in political discourse, in terms of this, majority of Georgians support EU integration. The ruling party promotes anti-Western conspiracy narratives. Linguistic analysis links the ruling party more closely with pro-Russian sentiment than opposition. And in terms of function of political language, languages in politics are used for insulting opponents, distancing from opposing ideologies, discussing or manipulating the truth, concealing scandals, forming public opinion, and persuading potential voters. This is the reference I've used, and for the recommendation for the future research, we need to analyze style shifting, which involves within the same language but still changing the code and style of the talk, and importance of fostering critical language awareness in society. This is what I wanted to say for today's presentation. I hope you got the point I wanted to spread. And if you have any questions, I'm more than free to answer. Sorry.